banquet. But life is tough sometimes. My name is Sten Fredriksen, and my job is to coordinate and manage the Young Professionals in Management Training Program. And I'm happy to welcome you to this YP morning. We will have, first of all, presentations from our team of young professionals participating in the training program. After that, there will be an FIDIC board presentation, and by the end of the morning session, the YPs from the training program will get their certificate by the president. We are very happy to have had a wonderful team of young professionals in the training program. I have been involved with this training program ever since it was started by the Danish Association way back in preparation for the 2004 conference in Copenhagen. And it seemed that the initiative sounded so exciting that the year after FIDIC took it over. We had a modest beginning in 2004 with 16 participants. This year we have more than 80. So it's quite a dramatic development, and honestly, I would be worried if the curve keeps going up like that, because then we will, in the end, be constituting more than a considerable larger part of the conference than we are today. I'm very happy that the training program now is getting 80. Actually, we lost a few because of visa problems, but at least we are 70 participants from the training program. And there's another added benefit, and that is that we see year after year a number of past participants in the training program coming around and attending the FIDIC conference. And that was in reality the reason why we originally developed the idea, simply to give the conferences blood transfusion by getting some young people into the audience, in the participants in general for the conference, so that the dominated participant wouldn't be an old and retired and past president or whatever. As I used to say, well, it's not this time, but I used to say that before we had this training program, most of the participants in the conference were experienced and appreciated very much, but most of them would have their future behind them. Now we have a group here who've been training, and they all have their future ahead of them. So we used to call this the Future Leaders Workshop. And what you're going to see now is the perception from the whole training group of what will the future be, what requirements do they see for their activities, what requirements do they see for the future of consulting business. So it's not a question of sort of summarizing the training program, it's a question of looking forward, looking into the future, and telling all of you, and of course also consolidating in their own mind what are the requirements they are facing. So in one way it's a message to the companies and to the other participants in the conference, but it's also a common understanding and a platform which they will use to develop their own career. I think that we are ready, and as you are all professional, managing everything, so I confidently leave it to you to manage the next part of the program. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Señoras and señores, buenos días, bienvenidos. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very good morning. My name is Gali. I'm from France. I'm a PM working for CTKB Finland. I'm really glad and proud to be here in front of you present our YPMTP 2013 Global Team. We commenced the FIDIC Young Professional training program in January and worked diligently together, exchanging our different knowledge and experience. Each of us contributed this last 8 months to build a team spirit around exercises and documents provided by our mentors, Mr. Fredrickson, Mr. Novak, Mr. Fumonkwa, and Mr. Crouch. And we would like to thank them for their support and guidance. The world is constantly changing, and the foundation that our ancestors have built continue to be applied in our modern world. However, the recent global events, in example the Arab Spring, the civil protests in Turkey, Brazil, and beginning last week in Eastern Europe, and the wars in Syria and Libya, suggest that we should adapt every time our way of life and our strategy. The world is moving every day, and we need as leaders to hear the different voices coming from the world. We are the engineers, building facilities required by all of us and making the world better. Our target is to contribute to delivering a certain quality of life. It's up to us to choose if we would like to contribute as leaders or as makers. Today you have in front of you 83 women and men coming from Asia, Oceania, Africa, America, and Europe. 33 countries. We are engineers, lawyers, architects, only professionals. We arrived last week at Barcelona from our respective countries to work on the presentation that you are going to have right now. We are glad to show you now our vision of the future, our vision for the quality of life. Hope that you will enjoy it, and please let me introduce my colleague and my friend, Cameron Bella.
Thank you, Niruddin. Well, again, thank you all for coming. FIDIC put on a great show for us last night. I think there may be a sore head, so I think we'll just take that as why the room isn't as full as we'd like it to be. Again, welcome. Niruddin said, my name is Cameron. I work for Cardno in Australia, and I for one, am so proud to represent the group of people that have come together for this training. And as all of us here, we're just proud to represent them and present what we believe will be the problems and challenges of the future, and how we think we need to slightly change the way we do things to start to deal with these problems. Best place to start is with an agenda. We have an introduction which I will present. Present some of the problems, and many of us talk about problems, but there are also opportunities. So where there's a problem, there is an opportunity. We'll go through the concept that we have prepared that we think we need to actually adopt to make change. We've got some examples of how we can apply this, and then we will have some conclusions. You'll have to be patient, we'll take you on a journey. But we as a group are making a commitment to deliver something in Rio 2014. You'll have to wait till the end to see what it is though. Anyone recognise this? This is our planet before we knew it. Pangea. As a group, we decided to use this as an analogy for our group, to represent our group. Because the world, the continents are separated, we've all come from different continents, yet for this conference, for this course, we have all come together. It's a real key message for what needs to happen for the future. 83 students, 33 countries. We represent 33 countries from over the world. The blue dots indicate where we are all from. The red dots indicate where we have also worked. You can see there is quite a good cross-section across the world. Now I'm just going to take you on a little bit of a journey and articulate what our journey has been for the past week. So as Niruddin said, we came together last Wednesday. The mentors provided us with 3 days of coursework, case studies. We were required to work together. 83 people representing 33 countries. Different cultures, different professional backgrounds, different experience, different ways in which we like to work. Engineers, lawyers, architects, quantity surveyors, we all have our own way of working. Yet we had to come together and work together. So on Saturday morning, we arrived at 9 AM and our mentor said to us, you have a presentation to prepare on Wednesday morning at 8:30 AM. The topic, you need to decide. What you present, you need to decide. It is basically you need to run your own business for the next few days to produce something for today. And remember, this is it's a young professionals course. And the people that all sit in front of us today that are from the course are all future leaders in our industry. So when the mentors packed up their bags, they stood up and they just left the room. We all just stood there and looked at each other saying, what are we going to do? We had to select a project director, a creative artist, team leaders. I'm not going to lie to you, the first day was a disaster. It really was. And a lot of us were thinking, maybe the mentors should have set us in the direction of what we should have done, given us a topic. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think they've done it just right. Because the challenge for us, and the journey for us, was over the last few days to come together from our differences to produce something that we all agreed on and that we're all passionate about. And we've done it. We're here today. Some of us were actually embracing last night, thinking, yes, we've actually done it, and we're proud of what we're producing. So congratulations to you all. We needed a vision. We brainstormed, we discussed, we discussed, we discussed, and we discussed. But we came to a vision. Our vision for now and into the future is to deliver quality of life. Now we've chosen these words very carefully. To deliver quality of life. You need to be patient with me and I'll explain how we actually got to this. So what is quality of life? We needed to define quality of life. We came up with a lot of these items that are really for us to define quality of life. The quality of life means something different to everyone, depending where you're from, depending what your experience is, depending where you live, depending what access you have to infrastructure. We broke this down into 4 key categories: people, integrity, needs, and sustainability. 4 key items that we think define quality of life. The majority of us are engineers. yes, we are represented by lawyers, architects, quantity the majority of us were engineers. So to solve the problem that we had to prepare something that we believed we needed to solve the problems of the future, we used our own methods of thinking and our own processes that we know so well. So as engineers, we solve problems by having a vision, applying methods, and utilising resources. And the way we do it is in quite a linear process. And just remember that, it's a linear process that we usually apply. So what are the problems? Or opportunities? There's two facets of this. One of the problems is the way in which we go about solving problems. And we'll go through a process that we went through which actually articulates the process that we usually use. So by nature, we are linear. So what are the problems of the world of the future? The message has been consistent at the conference from Sunday night even. We've got rapid, uncontrolled population growth. The forecast is huge. Not everyone has access to food and water. Everyone needs to have access to food and water. Rapid urbanisation. We believe the next 100 years will be more challenging than the past 100 years. We need to find an alternative source of energy. We need to do it. No more time for discussion. We need to actually move forward. Jeff French, president of FIDIC, said it in his opening speech. Many of us are behaving as though we have more than one planet. We don't. We have one planet. We as a group believe that change can be made, and we are committed to contributing to this change. To our proposal, we need a new framework to solve 21st century problems. And this is what we will deliver to you today, a new framework. So our process, the linear process that we as engineers use. We have a problem. We have a vision. Values. What are our values? We brainstormed this quite a while. We believe our main values were integrity, growth and development, quality with the use of resources. We have finite resources, yet we have an over-demand of finite resources. What are our goals? We believe, as professionals, we need to be more holistic. And this message has already been delivered at this conference. We need to be more holistic. No longer can we be technical engineers. We need to have more education in financial management. We need to understand how politicians work, how policy is made. We need to learn how to have more influence. It was a real key goal of ours, to learn how to have more influence. We need more collaboration, more global collaboration. Our strategies. We need to manage talent. Again, it's another message that's been consistent. We need a life cycle approach. We need to commit to research and development. What are our methods? What are our advantage? We need to understand business more. We need to understand how we fit into good business management practice. And sustainability. We need to consider sustainability all the time. So resources. What is our greatest resource as professionals? It's knowledge. We need to use our knowledge, share our knowledge. Relationships, collaboration. We need to use good HR practices to bring all of this together. So now we reach a solution. So this is the process that we have used to come to what we believe is a solution or a starting point. This process is linear. And the world is in constant change. So is a linear approach still sufficient? As a group, we don't believe it is. We believe we need complex, we need a framework to solve the complex problems. And I hand over to Mike to present the framework to you.
Thank you, Cameron. So, I'll start by presenting the image of a Rubik's Cube. How many people have attempted to solve a Rubik's Cube? Okay, quite a few of us. How many people have actually successfully solved a Rubik's Cube? Gone. All right, not so many of us. And a Rubik's Cube is a challenging problem. It has many colors, or in the case of this graphic, many symbols. There are 6 faces on a Rubik's Cube and 9 facets. So 54 total elements make up a Rubik's Cube. And when we start to solve a Rubik's Cube, they're all mixed together. And our job is to try to straighten them out and align them back into their like colors or symbols of it. But it takes many iterations unless you're an absolute genius and you can pick one and solve it. So how we began in our training course is 83 individuals from 33 countries with unique experiences, perspectives, and ideas, opinions. And what we needed to do was to find a way to try and develop a cohesive message, and then a medium to convey this message. So, I'll come back to this concept, but let's think about the ideas that we came up with as the many facets on a Rubik's Cube in kind of a mixed up, disorganized fashion as we start out with. So, we're in the quality of life business and engineering. To deliver our services, we need vision, we need methods, we need resources, as we've discussed. And as Cameron has mentioned, by nature, we are linear thinkers as engineers. And why wouldn't we be? It's logical, it's efficient, it's the way we've been taught to do things. We've organized our businesses into linear structures. And this way, we have also focused our work into narrowly defined processes. The reasons why? Well, it reduces complexity. It keeps our costs down. It gives us the ability to deliver our projects on time and on budget. The thing is, though, is we tend to focus on single objectives when we are delivering engineering work. So, is is this the way forward? Are we going to be able to continue delivering quality of life services with single objectives in mind? So as an example, let's take a water main project. You write a proposal. Your job is in writing a proposal, you put together a scope, a schedule, and a budget, and you're going to try to make that as tight as possible. That way you'll win the job. So now you've won the job, you're now a project manager. Your job is to keep that project as close to that proposal as possible. You don't want to deviate from your scope of work. And now it's time to construct that water main, and your job is to protect the owner's interests and see to it that project gets done as promised. So again, narrow, single objective, get the job done. And we've become very good at doing all of these things. We've built many wonderful things as engineers. We've delivered quality of life to most of the planet. In fact, over the past few years, we've seen massive reductions in poverty and big gains for a lot of different societies and so on. But this approach, can we continue to do it? It's led to some gloomy outcomes: ecological degradation, climate change, social inequity. So as a new middle class emerges, we don't think we can continue to apply the single objective, narrow, linear approach to project delivery. So over the past 6 months, our team has learned about many of the traditional aspects of the engineering business: human resources, business development, financial management, project management, and some newer ideas like sustainability and integrity in business. And our companies have been segmented into these structures, departments, to handle these different things. But what it's done is it's created a bit of a siloed mentality. We have sales departments that overpromise things that project managers have a tough time delivering. We have project managers wanting to do a great job, but maybe pushing things a little too far and causing issues for financial management of companies. We have HR departments that expect project managers to do more with less in projects. So these are all challenges. And what it needs to be done is to look across sectors, look across disciplines, and start to integrate these ideas, start to integrate practice. So our discussions have identified a disconnect between our stakeholders, our clients, governments, consultants, consumers. A bit of a lack of awareness of what's important to one another. We need to understand each other's values. We need to understand what's important to one another in order to work together. So we're seeking to bridge a gap, and in doing so, enhance our business practice, our outputs, our people, and quality of life. So again, we want to come back to these three key concepts: vision, resources, and methods in delivering quality of life services. So I would like to talk a little bit about integration. So we have many problems to solve, present and future. Some of them we know about, most of them we probably don't know yet. The linear approach will not necessarily lead to the right solutions because we can't grasp the complexities of projects. We can't identify all of the issues when we think linearly. So we need to come at it from different angles, and we need to bring those different viewpoints together. And we need to recognize that poor decisions right now will have lasting impacts for the future. So some ability to be able to foresee things, to be able to predict things by, again, looking at different viewpoints and understanding different ideas. So we need to start developing solutions based on a more rigorous and inclusive and defensible and transparent process. And we want to be able to consider all of these aspects in delivering our quality of life solutions. So some of the key principles that we need to bring in is flexibility for one. We need to be able to respond to changing conditions. As an example, we have rapidly advancing technology. We need to be able to bring those technologies into our business practice as they come in. and take advantage of them. We need to be adaptable to different applications. What works in one country might not work in another country. What works for one firm may not work for another firm, and so on. And our solution needs to be approachable. So we need, or will be quickly abandoned, and it should be understood throughout the organization. We need to have buy-in at all levels, from senior management all the way down to the most junior staff. So integration really means bringing everybody together, understanding the viewpoints of your clients, governments, the public, yourselves, and having that understanding from top to bottom within our organizations. So that's, to us, what integration means. So, our concept. This is the result of our past week's work. What we're showing you is sort of our blank template right now, where we've built this cubic structure with 3 axes: vision, methods, and resources. So what we want to do is start thinking about ways to integrate all of these different processes together to help develop our businesses better. So it's a multi-dimensional framework for delivering quality of life services in the 21st century. That's what we're trying to achieve. And if I may be so bold, I think this is what has been asked for in this conference. We've seen much talk about all of these different issues, but we need a way to pull all of them together. So I'll just pause for a minute and let you guys think about this. Think of one word that might come to mind when you have a look at this, and we'll come back to it. So, again, the axes of this framework, the vision, the methods, the resources, is how we've constructed this model, this framework. As Cameron had explained, these 3 axes can be further broken down into some subsets. So we start with our values. Our values is what we want to achieve, or sorry, what's important to us. That leads into setting goals. Goals are what we want to achieve at the end of the day. And then we need strategies set forth to be able to achieve those. So within all of those, we need to understand the methods that we have available to us. We have technologies. We're developers of technologies. We're adapters and adopters of technologies. We have developed business practice over 100 years, and we'll need to continue to develop business practice. And within that, we need to integrate sustainability from top to bottom within our organizations. We need to integrate sustainability into our projects and our products, and educate our clients and others about the principles of sustainability. And then finally, we have our assets and resources. So we're a knowledge economy. We're providers of knowledge. We're developers of knowledge. We have relationships, our networks, our ability to reach out to others, our way of getting business done. And then we have our human resources, which for our firms is really our most important assets. Without the human resources, we really don't have much in terms of companies. So what we've done here is we've taken all of the ideas that we came up with throughout the last week and the last 6 months, and we've tried to assemble and organize them in this matrix, this 3-dimensional matrix structure. And the idea here is it's a complete structure. Through this approach, we can identify gaps. We can bring things together and make things make sense, and it takes iterations to get this done. So it's, again, moving away from this linear thinking process and moving towards more of this 3-dimensional process. So, this is the draft concept. We've spent a few days working on this, and here's an initial idea. This could be developed further. So we'd like everybody in the audience to think a little bit about how we could take this general concept and bring it forward a bit more. So maybe after the talk we can discuss that a bit more. But how can we really use this? What's the idea here? We could use this perhaps to structure a new line of business. So for those entrepreneurial people in the crowd who want to go out there and design a new way of doing work, maybe we can think in this way when we start to maybe add a new department to the company, launch your own new business. Maybe this is the way to structure a proposal for a project. It opens up a new way of thinking about how we deliver our services. Maybe we can design a project around this whole framework. We need to think maybe outside the box a little bit more, but in this structure. So, some of my colleagues have already identified some applications for this. And so Benedicta, Patrick, and Shaw are going to explain some ideas, some applications about how this framework can be used in our businesses. And I'll put that challenge out to the audience. How do you think you can use this framework in your business?
Good morning. My name is Benedicta. I work with Associated Consultants and I come from Ghana. Mike has already explained a lot to us, and I'm here to show an application. The structure we have here, we have a vision, we need methods, and then we need resources. All of us in this room have businesses, and we need to sustain those businesses. One of the key resources we need are people. If we don't have people, we don't have business. So how do we develop our people so our businesses could be sustained? So we want to develop holistic professionals. I don't want to use the word engineers because in this room, we don't only have engineers. We have architects, we have lawyers, we have other professionals. What do we mean by holistic? Holistic is making a person a whole. We all depend on one another. And so to be a rounded person, you need a lot more ideas. You don't just need the technical ideas you have. What is our vision? Our vision is to ensure balanced solutions and to increase influence in society. We live in a fast-moving world, and we as professionals cannot slow down. We need to catch up with the world. Projects are becoming more complex. Challenges are increasing. We need to ensure that we have balanced solutions, influence in society. What resources do we need? We need skills. As professionals, especially as engineers, our hard skills, which is the technical knowledge we have, is very developed. But we also need soft skills. We need to communicate. We need to develop that. We need to collaborate. We need to create awareness, and we need emotional influence. We need values. Values are breaking down, and as professionals, we cannot leave them like that. We need to work on it. How do we work on our values? We need sustainable businesses. We need responsibilities, and we need guidelines. We need ethics. This is the responsibility of all stakeholders. We need to broaden our knowledge as well. We need to look at things in the bigger picture. We need to come out of our comfort zones and look at the broader picture and see how we solve problems. We also don't have to tackle engineering solutions only technically. We need to incorporate social, economic, and environmental aspects so we can be well-rounded. What methods are we going to use? We need to be exposed. Like I've already said, we need to come out of our comfort zones. Exposure helps us. Exposure broadens our knowledge, and that is what we need as professionals. We need mentorship. Sometimes as young professionals, or even as end of the tunnel, you tend to give up. but you need somebody to urge you on. You need somebody to tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You need to fight ahead. When you are exposed, when you are mentored, we're able to move in the right direction. We need education. We go through school to acquire knowledge, but it shouldn't end there. We need to learn on the job. But as professionals, especially as engineers, how do we merge having job experiences with our education? Do we need to come out of school before we get on the job training? Or we can make it attractive such that as we are getting the technical knowledge, we are also learning on the job. Other professionals are doing it. How can we as engineers do it like that so that as we come out into the world, our impact will be felt? We need training. When we come out of school, it shouldn't end there. As individuals, we should avail ourselves for development. Day in and day out, innovations are coming up, challenges are increasing. You need to train yourself to catch up with the pace at which the world is going. FIDIC as pace setters have this training program for us. We are challenging our member associations, other industry associations, to pick up the training so that we can develop holistically. Thank you. I'll hand over now to Patrick to apply another application on the framework.
Thank you, Benedicta. So, my name is Patrick, and I work for Philcoy International, part of the Philcoy Group. I am from the Philippines. And on behalf of my fellows in the YP group, let me share another area where we can practically apply the business framework that Mike has just presented. And this is how we, as consulting professionals, can have a stronger influence in making decisions. Over the past few days, our group has discussed a number of key issues or challenges that we are facing now and which we would like to face in the future.
So, this is the current situation. Almost always the case, decisions, policies are made from the top to the bottom. Those in power, the politicians, policymakers, are basically controlling on how we deliver our services. And we, consulting professionals, are in the lower tier of this triangle of influence. And as a result of the pressures, of the demands that we receive from the top, we are compromised in delivering fully our services. And as a result, the public, which is left at the bottom, the end users, might not actually be getting the optimal solution to their problems. They may not actually receive the needs or the requirements. And so in line with the business framework that we had just presented, how do we propose to change this scenario? First, we should have a vision. So our vision is to transform this current situation into a scenario wherein there is a more dynamic interaction, where there is more a fluid flow of influence, where the consulting professionals have greater participation in the decision-making process. We also see a future wherein industry organizations, such as FIDIC and our regional organizations, can play an active role in making policies, in making decisions on how projects are delivered, so that ultimately the public will benefit tremendously from this fair and equitable sharing of responsibilities, of influence, and of leadership. So how do we propose to carry on this task? How can we achieve this vision? We have methods. So what are these methods?
As consulting professionals, primarily, we first need to gain respect. We should be able to achieve an image that is trustworthy and noteworthy. Only in this way can we really make an impact to those who are pulling the strings. Our expertise, we should be able to enhance our competence, our skills, our knowledge. We should be able to deliver solutions that are really needed by society, using our wealth of experience. But of course, in doing our business, we should be able to maintain our integrity. We should influence not through corrupt or fraudulent practices, but rather by adhering to a certain set of ethical and moral standards. In that way, we can build trust. We can make policymakers, politicians, believe in our credibility. And obviously, we should be able to show results. We should have measures or indicators of how we are effective in our initiatives to influence policies and decisions. Obviously, as soon as we carry out this method successfully, the consulting professional and our industry as a whole will have a bigger and louder voice. A voice that will be heard by society. A voice that will matter. But don't get me wrong, this is no easy task. But the good thing is, we have the resources. First and foremost, the people, especially the young professionals, which will be at the forefront of our industry in the years to come. This is the greatest asset of our industry. We have our education. This should not be stagnant. This should be a dynamic, continuing process. Young professionals, consulting professionals, should be able to adapt to advancements, not only technical, but as my colleagues have mentioned, we should be able to become holistic, knowing the different fields and aspects relevant to total project delivery. Communication, we have the tools. We should optimize this in order to keep that strong relationship, keep the connection with the policymakers, with the politicians, with our clients. Obviously, technology. Technology will still play a big role in the future, and we should maximize innovations, solutions in forwarding our targets. And finally, success. Our experience, the successful projects that we have undertaken, this is another great resource we can use in order to convince policymakers of our recommendations, our proposals, of how to deliver quality of life solutions to the public. Thank you. So now I'll pass the mic.
Thank you very much, Patrick. 3 axes, 3 examples of application are very apt. So the world is advancing. New technology, mass transport, global communication, worldwide impact and progress. Lunchtime speaker yesterday, Mr. Javier Bardon, which is most likely I mispronounced his name, put the word global as his second theme. And we believe collaboration would be another key issue that we have to work on. What I have on screen right now are key issues that we have identified as a team regarding collaboration. There is an undercutting culture. I can do it cheaper. That's why it should go for me, not quality. Across the globe, there is a gap in technology and information. Some knows more than the other. Maybe we should make it flat. The third part is limited use of lessons learned. Failure is not a bad thing. But those failures or lessons learned from that failure or success is not being shared. We believe that the way forward is to transform the mindset. Transform the way you think from, if I share with you information, I lose the competitive edge. Transform that to a more global way of thinking, which is, if I share, it will induce creativity. When I share, that's great financial return. When I share, the world is more sustainable. The idea of sharing for progress is not a new thing. I'm going to give you two extremely good examples on the progress or how you share can make a big difference. Two Danish innovators, the website is down there, Copenhagen Suborbitals, had a very simple goal. They want to launch a human being into space using open source information and funding. I would assume the same person would want to come back. The progress right now is that they have launched an unmanned rocket up, and now they have an agreement with NASA to use the NASA's launch facility. All these came from an open source information and funding. Android and Linux, well-known brands, success came from open sourcing. And from there, great financial returns. Again, referring to yesterday's lunchtime talk, from Windows dominating a 96% shares during the mid-90s towards the early 2000s, to Android taking up about 33%. That's the power of sharing. The idea of database is not a new thing as well. I'm sure, I don't have any statistical data, but I hypothesize most of the people in this room are self-masters of Googling and Wikipedianism. So, but what we identify is that technical data is limited and not readily available. So, how do I apply the framework that we as a group have developed? Provide a vision, state my method, and then identify the resources to be used. The vision, provide technical information which is globally accessible for free. The method, an information platform, a database. The resources, administration, you need the people power to start, to maintain, to filter, and to share. Funds, to start and to maintain yet again. And what we want to deliver the most, the technical information that can help them forward. As this ecosystem matures, the same end users will provide their sharing, their lessons learned, new information, and new creativity to make this database or this ecosystem a more complete, self-sustainable, self-progressing idea. Now, I hope that gets you up a bit, because I'm building up the pressure for my conclusion, our conclusion. I would like to present to you Imran, and he will give you a condensed version of what we said in the last 45 minutes.
Good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody hear me clearly? My name is Imran Mohammed. I'm from ACOM in South Africa. In the old days, South Africa was a halfway point for Western explorers on their way to the east, and vice versa. And I think that might be one of the reasons why all of my colleagues from all of our different countries have asked me to wrap things up today. What I'm going to try to do is to briefly capture some of the messages, not just of the course, but the last 2 days of the FIDIC conference, as well as the messages we've delivered to you this morning. I think we've had enough in the last 2 days of acknowledging the problems and the challenges. We talked about unbalanced world, limited resources, and major disparities between nations. But I hope that this morning, and throughout the last 2 days in your interactions with other people, you've also seen a next generation of young professionals with energy, enthusiasm, and skills unencumbered by the past. People who are able to recognize fundamentally, through all our differences, that we are all in the business of delivering quality of life. Over the course of our training, particularly over the last few days in our face-to-face lectures with Ben, Steve, Felix and Robin, we've been constantly challenged to reimagine the future of our profession. And this reimagining has been the consistent theme in preparing for today. We've taken our minds, all of our collective wisdom, through an understanding of the quality of life issue, the theme. We've used the cue presented by Mike to try and imagine a new future. But we haven't forgotten where we've come from. We've reminded you this morning of the traditional engineering logical approach to problem solving, that of vision, method, and resources. But we've taken this a step further and we've tried to be a little bit innovative. And we've used that to condense all of our different ideas and our different view on the profession of consulting engineering that FIDIC advocates around the world. And we've condensed that into the cube. Various areas of application within our businesses. Our challenge is to reimagine all of these different areas of application for a new 21st century. There were a number of speakers over the last few days that repeated the same message. If we do things in the same way that we've always done, we should not expect different results. And therefore our challenge is to reimagine each of these fundamental aspects of our profession. We've given you 3 examples today. We talked about rethinking human resources, and we imagined the concept of a holistic professional. We realized that in order to be rounded individuals, we need to actually work on the non-technical skills. Dr. Randall Pinkett talked about how his eyes were opened when he spent 2 years at Cambridge, and he realized how he lacked in non-technical expertise. Areas of life that affected his ability to deliver as an engineer, but he hadn't had any of that training. We as young professionals of 2013, we echo the words of Winston Churchill when he said that the first duty of universities is to teach wisdom, not a trade, to build character and not simply technicalities. Recognizing the spheres of power and influence amongst governments, clients and policymakers, we've realized that we need to play a leading role in influential positions. As young professionals, we may need to step outside our traditional areas of expertise. Some of us may need to leave detailed engineering behind, but we've recognized that in reimagining how we can influence society. Another theme picked up by Dr. Pinkett yesterday was that of socially driven innovation. To this end, we imagined an information sharing platform, a database of sorts of engineering solutions that demonstrate sustainability, best practices, that is available free and without prejudice to users around the world. This platform would have a number of purposes: to promote our profession, to build innovation, ideas, building on ideas, and to drive this innovation through a theme of collaboration, rather than simply competition, which is driven by our clients' needs. Again, it's a break from the past. Dr. Pinkett talked a lot about small incremental efforts, and he called them failures, but effectively he was talking about small efforts that drive us towards success. And this past few months, all of us together in this class, and the last few days, and particularly I would say the last 36 hours, has been a lot about small incremental efforts that have brought us to where we are today. We've had a lot of energy, a lot of tension in the room, a lot of strong personalities, but limited resources, limited time, and a looming deadline. All of this has resulted in us arriving at a deliverable this morning. And that deliverable is more of a challenge. It's a challenge to all of us, particularly for all of you hearing this message for the first time. As the young professionals of 2013, we didn't want to just deliver to you a great speech. We've presented to you a draft framework. What we would like to propose is that this framework be developed in more. we are looking to the Young Professional Steering Committee to volunteer young professionals of our generation and younger from around the world, and already a number of us are part of this as a working group. And we're obviously looking to FIDIC to assist us with this process. We're proposing reimagining our profession, every fundamental aspect of our business, in order to ensure that we have a mindset of quality of life, of sustainability into the future. Our aim is that by Rio 2014, we're not only going to have a white book and a red book and a yellow book, but perhaps we'll have a new FIDIC guide that reimagines fundamental aspects of our profession, contextualizes it in the 21st century, and drives us constantly towards a mindset of delivering quality of life to all of our communities around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the challenge that the class of 2013 presents to you. An ongoing challenge, perhaps the next 1 year, perhaps many years to come, but we begin today. Thank you very much.
At this early hour. I'd also like to say thank you to our presenters for their inspiring words built on the collective vision and ideas of our very large and diverse group of individuals and professionals. And finally, and especially, I'd like to say thank you to our very dedicated group of mentors, Steen, Ben, Felix, and Robin. Thank you all very much. Questions anyone has?
Yeah, not a question, maybe just a comment. I think you've got it well covered. I like that idea of the soft stuff. Just bear in mind that the rest of the world and our clients keep on pushing us towards the hard stuff. And I think a classic example was maybe Bob Geldof yesterday. Kept on saying, well, you guys design this stuff, you know? And when you see a cell phone, everybody sees the hard stuff, the metal and everything. They forget about the massive systems sitting out there that are engineered to make the signal go wherever it needs to go. I also met a guy once on an aeroplane flying to Zurich, and I said, what are you going to do in Zurich? He said, no, he's going to an exhibition. So I said, well, what are you going to exhibit? He said, no, well, he's going to have a photography exhibit. So I said, oh, that's interesting. I said, and, you know, are you a good photographer and this kind of thing? He said, yeah, actually. And I said, you know, do you make money out of this business? He says, well, let me tell you, when I want to make money, I call myself an artist. When I just want to sell stuff quickly, I call myself a photographer. And, you know, it's that difference between the art and the science, and we're supposed to bridge it. And we always get pushed down into just the science and forget the art and the broader perspective. And that's something that we as consult engineers need to take forward and stop our clients from just saying, man, you just got to design the thing, put the steel in the concrete and get done with it, and think much broader. And that way I believe we can increase our value to society and our clients in general.
I think that's a good point, and also fits well into what we have identified as the problem, being from both sides, that sometimes we compartmentalize, we think in a linear scale, but also it's true on the other side, the client, we often let them dictate, and we think we need to think a little bit more multidimensional. So yeah, I don't know if anybody on the panel has any further comments on that. No? Next question.
Yes, mine is sort of just picking up on that theme. Bill Howard is my name, thank you. I need to remember that. Maybe it's my eyes, but I did not see in the matrix much about the client feedback, about getting feedback loops and lessons learned with the client. I mean, part of, I think, your overall approach was one of communication and education. So, of course, implied in there is educating our client, which is our clients, which is tied to what you said. But I would just suggest that as this approach is pushed forward, that you keep that in the back of your mind as well, to make sure there's enough in there in getting our clients to understand more of what we do. And that's the step towards value, I believe.
Thank you for the feedback, and that's a very good point. We do realize that our business is built around the client, so very valid, and again, we appreciate your feedback to help us develop further this concept. Yes? Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, I've got another one. Arthur Tauti, sorry, I was supposed to say my name. I think the one thing that's missing over there is observation. And I think you need to be careful as young professionals to rely too much on these little gadgets and the internet and everything and get all your learning from there. As you travel around the world, you really need to look at everything with different eyes. And you need to look at things properly. You need to look at the widths of the platform stations in Barcelona, which in my feeling are 1 meter too narrow. You need to look at the traffic outside here and see how it's sneaking through little frontage roads and all sorts of things. You need to look at the curbs, you need to look at the pavements, you need to look at the street lights, you need to look at everything and think, does that work where I come from? Can I adjust it? Can I make it work? Observation is hugely important and needs to be brought in there, and thinking time to go with it.
Yes. Thank you for that also. Please bear in mind we developed this within a matter of a few days, and it's not fully polished out.
Of course, we're just adding another block to make it more complicated.
Yes, keep adding blocks.
My name is Naren Bauger. I'm from Consulting Engineers South Africa, and I have a question, so you need to do some thinking and answer this question. The business of delivering quality of life, you need to think about what your quality of life is also in our industry. And I heard one of you say that it is important that you become, or you are the leaders of the future. So my question is very specific. Between now and Rio, we will lose a large number of young professionals to the banking sector, to the financial sector, to the insurance sector. I would like to know from you as young professionals, what will make you leave our industry, and what will make you stay in our industry?
Thank you for a simple question for such a I attended the middle management talk yesterday morning, and then it was identified, like you said, people are leaving, especially in the middle management part. I would quote again one of the facilitators saying, we need to make engineering sexy. We didn't, because of the end product, you see the beautiful side, but not the thinking part, not the creativity part. The word that was used, artistic. What makes engineering so alluring is that you are the person who developed the solution without being seen. So maybe for me, if there's no exposure, like Benedict said, that actually drives me right now to continue in this line of work.
Maybe to add to that, I think our jobs need to be fun. Our workplaces need to be places where we enjoy coming to. We need a reason to get up in the morning. Our companies need to be reinvesting in employees, and it's got to be something coming back for us. And it's not necessarily the money; it's quality of life in your job. I think that's critical.
I might just add to that as well. It's about our message about being a more holistic professional. But you know, we had a lot of discussion about, well, we need to know more about, you know, good business practice, and we need to know more about, you know, how policy is made and how politicians work. And you know, our education, our degree is already 4 or 5 years, and how do we add more to that? Because we think we need to be more holistic professionals. So it may be about rethinking the syllabus, perhaps, or maybe encouraging more postgrad, because if we can encourage, you know, if people are going to the finance sector, for example, if we can provide the challenges in our industry that we are influencing those decision makers, the banks, the politicians, then maybe that's a good way to actually retain the staff, because they're still getting exposure to those industries.
I'd like to just build on that as well. I think to retain me in the profession, just going to speak from a personal point of view, is for my employer to recognize that my life's not just about work. A lot of professionals that I've spoken to in the last few days from different countries, not just the young guys, the senior guys, particularly the senior guys, talk a lot about how engineering is long hours. You know, we work to tight deadlines, we're always grasping for the last few dollars, we're trying to squeeze money out of the client, we're desperately trying to win a bid, there's competition, there's a race for the bottom. But the reality also is that we live in a big world. We're all trying to develop other interests. Every night we've spent a bit of social time. We've had colleagues talk about their love of travel, photography, art. Barcelona is very much a city that makes you think of all of these other things. It's a very well-planned city, but it's not just planned by engineers. There's clearly a role for others. And I think within all of us, there's a role to develop the rest of yourself. And as employers, we do work a lot more today. We're constantly connected, as you said, to all of these gadgets. And work can become much more than just 9 to 5. It becomes a 24-hour exercise. And I think a recognition that staff members should be allowed to develop, again, holistically, to be afforded the opportunity to think freely. I think Google has a very good example. In the first few years, I think the first decade of Google's existence, it allowed staff members to spend 20% of their time on any ideas that they wanted to generate. And some of the best ideas that Google now uses, including Gmail as one of them, came from simply somebody's idea generated in time paid for by the company, but not necessarily recoverable initially. We work in such an innovative field with so many different minds. How much time do we just spend thinking and exploring what we could put together? And I think, to me, being able to have that freedom and recognizing that I will bring what comes out of that freedom back into the workplace, back into profitable business models, would probably go a long way to me staying in the consulting engineering industry.
Next question?
Dan Novak, one of the mentors. I couldn't resist. I normally should just be quiet. But in line with this last topic, there has to be more funding available within firms to sustain the training and to sustain these other activities. And we are, and this is a message I constantly preach, and because we have so many young professionals here, I hope you will take it up, because you are going to be deciding whether this continues or not. And that is our race to the bottom. You used that expression, actually, in your presentation, which is as a result of competition on price. And if we're going to have a better image vis-a-vis our clients, and the holistic engineer is, of course, the image we seek. In some of my presentations, I used a picture of Leonardo da Vinci, you know, and I ask people whether they know who this man is before we discuss it. We should aspire to be whole people and to have other interests, but in order to be successful and to have society accept us at the same level as doctors and lawyers, who have no problem with fees, we need to stop bidding. We need to write professional proposals and make proposals. And we have to strike the word bidding from all of our texts. You start there. Sometimes it's just the words you use that indicate where you're at. So I say to you, do not bid for the lowest price. Not a good idea. Thank you.
We have time for one more question.
My name is Andrew Steves, I'm from Canada. I kind of debated where to get up or not because it's not so much about a question, but it's really remarks to all of us here. I think at times we've got to be careful what kind of Kool-Aid we're drinking, okay? There's a lot of talk about the joys of failure at this conference. Well, failure is a learning experience. But as engineers, we have to be aware of the consequences of failure. I'm a municipal engineer by background. If my water system fails, people die. I think you're all aware that more lives have been saved by the procurement of good sanitation and clean drinking water than all medical advances. That's not an engineer saying that, that's the Economist magazine saying that. So the consequences of failure are very dangerous. Also, in this world of limited resources, we can't go around blowing money on bad projects. Okay, so we have to limit the consequences of failure, so be very careful about that. And I'm not talking to the young professionals, I'm talking to us all here. Because a lot of us were nodding our heads about the joy of failure. Okay. By the way, we talk about fun. I had an athlete, great athlete, tell me one time, fun is spelled W-I-N. Okay. And it's true. If you have a whole life full of failure, you're not having fun. Okay. You really aren't. We got to think about that. The other thing is too, we keep saying this all the time, engineers should be more rounded. You know, we should learn history, we should appreciate the arts and so on. I think I know more people in this room that appreciate history and the arts than I would in a room of lawyers or politicians or doctors. We have too many people that we're serving who took their last course in physics in grade 11 and hated it. Now think about that. What did you learn in grade 11 physics? Not very much. These people have profound ignorance about what we do. Okay, so the training and the education that's required of us as OPs and YPs is tremendous. These are things we have to think about. Because if we keep going back and taking more history courses, like the earlier commentator said, we are being pushed to do hard things. We're not being asked to write papers in history. We're being asked to deliver. And we're not being asked to deliver failures, we're being asked to deliver successes. So how we incorporate all that we've learned the last 2 or 3 days into all this is a real problem for us. But it's not just about us, it's about the world at large. Thank you.
Is that it? Yes. Okay, I think we're out of time. So thank you all again and enjoy the rest of your day.
All the pain till it's gone. Cause I can't justify the way everyone is looking at me. Nothing to gain, hollow and alone, and